So why
well, don't you agree with him that, I mean, to an extent, that would be a huge distraction? There are too many things on the plates for the current administration that they should be focusing on. Should they really be bothered, really? I mean, I'm not saying they shouldn't, everybody should go scot-free or they shouldn't look into certain things. But if you're going to focus so much time on trying to open up all of this source, don't you think there's going to be some level of distraction that will come in, especially with all the promises that President Buhari made?
Well, there will be to a certain level. But let's also look at it from another hand. Buhari actually have a committee looking into that. Yeah. That is assigning jobs to credible people who can actually do it. So he can actually face other things. That's why he's telling them to look at that. And I'm very sure he must have had an assumed figure that has been looted. And that is why we need to get back those money. You know, if you don't actually look into that, we'll keep losing funds, and we'll keep going back to borrow money from International Monetary Bank and the likes, which is not helping us. The economy itself is actually getting down, and by the time you look at the figures we hear, even though we are not yet certain of those figures, but by the time they kept telling us that we have billions of dollars in foreign accounts and what have you, you wonder, and we're starving in Nigeria. An average man cannot even feed themselves three square meals, and you're telling me to let go and look at other things. Then that means we're encouraging thefts.
But the thing is, I mean, we're not even sure how far back this probe is going to happen. That's one. Secondly, we also remember that President Buhari did say categorically that he was going to draw a line from May the 29th when he gets into office, and whatever anti-corruption fight he was going to pursue was going to start from that day. I mean, looks like that promise has already been broken.
Well, he said he was going to. That was a plan. Everybody has a plan. Sometimes your plan don't start as at the day you want to start it, because you need to go back again and look at the tables.
So why did he make this promise if he knew? I mean, every average Nigerian knows that there's always a chance of things having happened in the past for you to look into them. If he knew in his heart that maybe there was a possibility that maybe there were things that were being that he needed to question, should he have made that promise then?
Well, to be candid, I'm short of words over there.
Yeah.
Promise is a debt. But sincerely, sometimes when you make promise and you have to sit back, look at it that this promise will not be beneficiary. You have to actually trace back your step. So if you had made that promises and after going back and looking at XYZ, like I'm saying again, XYZ, and looking at that we can't actually fulfill all this because there are some certain factors that needs to be in place. You will have to actually, you know, come up with another strategy. He made a promise. That is what Nigerians really wanted as at that time. But he believes that if he gives you that promise as at that time, you won't get the best. So he's actually thinking of how to give you the best, which will benefit everyone.
Okay. Let's move on now to the security or insecurity which continues to bug our nation. It's been 5-6 years old now. We've been talking about Boko Haram and the activities in the northeast in particular. And we did hear that Mr. President has issued an ultimatum, I think, to service chiefs.
Yeah.
There's a 3-month window, I think, for them to wipe out Boko Haram and at least bring peace to the northeast by December or something along those lines. Yeah. It's not the first time we're hearing things like this. Our former president he had several timelines. I remember seeing him on several interviews saying by June so and so will happen, or by December this will be wiped out. He's been in power now, Mr. President, for 2-3 months. Is that long enough for him to have understood this fight against insurgency enough to give a timeline when it will end?
Well, giving a timeline, just like every other person, before actually going into that, it's like you starting a business or you want to go into business, you actually need to give yourself a time frame that before December, before January, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve that. Well, giving a timeline, it's because it actually wants them to know that you don't have enough time. That's my own belief. Fine, he has actually been a soldier, he's seen things like that before. He believes that there are some strategies they could apply. He has traveled on this same issue to meet other foreign countries and see how they can partner and assist us. Maybe based on all the assistance and other things that he has factored in, he's believing that by 3 months he could actually achieve it. But let's note that 3 months they could actually achieve it even before that time. It's just a set time. Now by 3 months, I believe that this same chief of staff and every other, military personnel might have to come back to the round table and tell them this is how far we've gone. If there's a need for them to ask for a month extra or thereabout, he will give. That's
what I'm wondering. If you give an ultimatum and they don't meet it, does it mean they're going to be fired? Because we don't know if there's sanctions going to be meted out on them if this is not met.
There will be an appraisal. There has to be an appraisal. So before that, I believe that he would want to see what they've done, what are the strategy, what they make it to work, and what really made it to work before he can make any other decision. But that 3 months is a set target that he wants them to work towards and achieve what they need to achieve.
Finally, now let's go to the National Assembly before we leave here. The salary of National Assembly has been a talking point probably since 1999.
Yeah.
And it continues to go up instead of down.
Actually went down now.
With this conversation. But now we're hearing that the House was pretty much divided. I'm talking of the House of the National Assembly as a whole now as to whether it should be reviewed or not. We're hearing that it's been brought down. We're not sure. But what do you see happening with that particular situation, especially now they've gone on recess again, after just coming back from a recess?
Well, to be candid, you just said it, initially we had it around 150 billion thereabout, and we're looking at about 120 billion, for this 2015. That's a sacrifice they've actually made in some areas, but I think there's a need for them to even go lower than that, because if you're expending that much for them to pass laws, they are meant to scrutinize bills, and you find out that they are supposed to pass bills within a short period of time. They have to go on recess, they have to go for social break, and they keep extending it. That actually amounts to spending more. So I think there should be a procedure they need to follow, and looking at the procedure, that will reduce the amount spent on the resources. As to reducing the whole thing, we have about, is it 360 total in total, which covers every constituency. I think it's okay, but they just need to see how they can still bring it down. Yeah. Maybe to like a 90 billion.
So I'm sure Nigerians even want it lower than that.
Well, let's take it one step at a time.
What about their recess? People have complained that it's one recess too many. The last time it was for 6 weeks, now it's another 1 month.
I think they need to get themselves. Seriously, going for recess. It's as if they are not ready for the job.
Committees haven't been set up.
Exactly. That's why I said they are not ready for the job. They keep saying they want to serve us, and they go for recess all the time. It's time for them to take the bull by the horn. They need to actually sit down and get things right. Time is going. So if they keep on going, time is also going. If they go for recess today, time is going. One thing that needs to be attended to is not being attended to. By the time they come back, one thing is left for the other. It's not fair. Do
you think there's a possibility that there's a link between the fact that the federal government hasn't appointed ministers to the fact that National Assembly is still a little lax with the way they're working? You
remember that while Buhari was to come on board, he actually presented that he would like to have his ministers, and during that period, they had other discussion in the House. Then they did. And after they had to do some scrutiny to know who is, credible to be a minister, that has not affected any other operation. After then, they had the election, didn't they? They had that of the Speaker, they had the Senate President, and, all that. So why this? Why the recess now? Tell us. So I don't believe that is actually part of the reason why they have to go for recess. They are not just taking the right thing at the right time.
Thank you very much, Adeleke. I mean, if we talk Nigeria, we would not leave here today. Thanks for being here today.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much for coming. We'll be right back with more. Please stay with us.